Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and I'm calm today, and we're going to be discussing mirrorball power, area light color, gel burning issues, and being a first-year graduate student, all on Light Talk.
And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. That's right, Stan, Steve, and David, back at you. Episode 199.
That is getting too close. Did you say 5 years? 5 years coming up? That's crazy.
We're closing in on 200, which means that in 8 weeks, we will be doing our anniversary show, starting our 5th year of broadcasting.
All right, I have a question about that. Who decides if this show gets another season or not? Like, is there a producer somewhere? Or is there like a ratings board? Or who makes that decision?
Supreme Court justices.
I thought it was our legal team of Flecked, Flocked, Flare, and Glare.
Oh, we'll have to ask them what they think.
Maybe Snoot will be involved in that decision.
I just think, somebody has to decide that our contracts get continued or they lay us off.
Probably Snoot has the pulse of the public.
Snoot does have the pulse of the public. And by the way, we heard that our newest member of that team, Rudy Giuliani, is no longer a member of the team because he's going to be on the witness stand during the impeachment.
Rudy may no longer be a lawyer.
There's a disbarment conversation. Well, it is going to be different because this time there will be witnesses. Because last time they balked witnesses, and witnesses make a difference.
Witnesses do make a difference. But you know something? We have a new president. This is our first show with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris in power. How do you like that, guys?
Yay.
There was much rejoicing.
I don't want to think about politics for 4 years.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Isn't it? I was out on the patio before the show and just feeling like the world is somehow calm. And I'm just like ready for a little bit of calmness.
Okay. So what are we going to do about our anniversary show? This is a big anniversary. Do you guys have any ideas?
I want a cake.
Well, it's hard to eat a cake when you're 3,000 miles away from each other.
So is this our 4th anniversary or our 5th anniversary?
We had this discussion 2 years ago. This would be our 5th. No, this would be our 4th anniversary.
And we're starting
going
our
into our
5th
5th year. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's what we decided.
So that means we give each other bed sheets. It's our linen anniversary.
It's not the paper anniversary.
I want a high thread count. Egyptian cotton, please.
Yeah, I'm missing a pillow. I discovered that today.
You could go to Mr. Pillow.
Mr. Pillow, my pillow guy.
I'm not going to Mr. Pillow. Mr. Pillow, I don't trust those pillows.
I don't blame you.
That's a whole nother story. Hey, our last 2 shows, we had some great interviews.
We did.
We did the whole theme show thing in 197. And then last week, we had Thad in 198. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. It's great.
Yeah, Thad is coming to UF on the 25th of January for 2 hours. He's going to beam in over Zoom from London and is going to tell everybody at UF how to really do it. So I'm excited.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's great. And we have some news.
Uh-oh.
So PPP applications opened up. And again, for all of our listeners out there, and I would say at least 90% of them, you are independent contractors. You can actually get money from the government. It's a loan, but it's easily forgivable, meaning that you can ask for forgiveness of that loan. And we know lots of people who have been forgiven for that loan. And as a matter of fact, I haven't heard of anyone yet who's had to pay that loan back. So please, it really is a simple thing to do. Just find any bank or any credit union, and most of them have portals that go through the internet, and all you really need is your Schedule C. And everything will be, you can figure everything out and just apply for it. And for the people who got PPPs last year, you can get a second draw now, and it's even easier.
It was very easy.
It's very easy. So all you have to do is go through the same lender that you got your first PPP, and they call it a second draw, and they use the same documents basically from your first one. The only thing you have to prove is that in any quarter from 2019 to 2020, that corresponding quarter has to be at least 25% lower in receipts than the quarter from 2019. Or you could do the entire year. And I'm sure, unfortunately, that most of us have had at least a 25% drop in income.
Yeah.
So anyway, the PPP is open. Talk to a financial advisor because everyone's situation is different, and go for it. Also, we've had URTA going on this week. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah, in a different kind of way.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, we're doing this stuff with Accepted online. We've been doing that for a few years. I have my frustrations with the software, but I'm getting the hang of it. And this time we'll be doing interviews over the internet, video calls, I guess. And surprisingly, they had to add an extra day for lighting design because there were so many applicants. I think the number Steve said was 53 to be precise, which is a lot. And I've talked to about 8 or 10 in advance of URTA, which has been really nice. So be able to go in and look at them and reach and make a comment on their page. And if they want to talk to me or their website, what I did is I made comments on their website, their contact page. And then I said, if you want to have a conversation. So they did. That's been very enjoyable. I get very energized by talking to students. And I'm probably going to talk to about half of the students that applied. There's a lot of really great people, which makes us wonder, I know that for us, we don't even know what our funding is because we're waiting for the delayed reaction of COVID finances as a state school as to how many slots we're going to have for next year. But a lot of students seem to be wanting to come back to school, and I was pleased that many of them are wanting a diverse education in lighting, not specifically just exclusively to the fundamental classic training that we all do so well in stage lighting. So that's been my experience. I'm excited for that.
We're going to be talking about this a little more later on in our Let's Talk About segment. So that being said, we have a surprise. Steve has a new Light Talk puzzler.
Yes, and remember, this is a podcast about lighting. So I came home today and my garage door would not work. I tried my little remote control outside and it said no entrance. I could not get it to work. So, what is the problem with my garage door opener? Why is it not working? I had a trip to Home Depot, fixed the problem in about 5 seconds.
You changed the batteries. No. Didn't change the batteries, though. I did look. I didn't change the batteries. It's simple, but it's not obvious. Okay, and it's a lighting question, obviously.
It is a lighting question.
Good. Okay, so please write your answers on the back of a $20 bill and send them to Stan's address, and we will take the first correct answer.
And that will be tax deductible.
It will be tax deductible because Stan is running the Human Fund. So
that's right. It's the Light Talk Foundation.
If you have the answer or you have a guess, please post it on the Light Talk Facebook page. So Steve has our first question of the day.
Yes, Robert writes in and he says, I have 2 Lecos, 2 for together. One light burns through gels every 3 or 4 performances. The other about every 10. What's going on? Robert, can I call you Bob? I think you can solve this problem. And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to exchange the lights on the side of the twofer. And I suspect you will find the problem follows the light. So I don't think it's the twofer. I don't think it's power. I think it's something more obvious. I had a question like this a long time ago, and it was 2 Fresnels. And the Fresnels were a little bit more challenging than the Lecos. But I think what you're going to find is that one of your lights is out of focus. You probably need to sit down and bench focus that thing. Or you've got a 1K lamp in one and a 500 in the other. So, but I don't think electricity is the problem. Yeah. Is there anything I'm missing here? What else could it be?
I wasn't even sure. And when you said, those 2 suggestions sound accurate, but it doesn't say whether they're the same color. I would assume they are, in which case I think your alignment thing is probably it, or the wattage. I mean, those two make sense to me. Could it also be different lens tubes? So like a 6x4.5 in the old days, that would burn through with deep saturated gel in about in minutes, literally, because of where the convergence point is. But if he's got the same beam angle, it's probably what Steve's two ideas. Back in the day when I was a shop buddy at Production Arts, we had these top hats, and we welded color clips on the front of the top hats. So whenever you rented a 6x4.5, those were in the old Altman fixtures, and Beverly Emmons wanted R80 in them. If you didn't put the top hat with the color clips, the gel were gone in like 60 seconds. It would burn right through.
You can buy now or rent gel extenders, which I would do for every 50 and even 36 degree fixture.
Wasn't there a gel called Heat Shield that Lee made, Steve?
There's several companies that make them. I mean, the ticket is to buy a really good heat shield. I tried heat shield, and I didn't think it worked very well, and kept a 1/2-inch air gap in there and just thought, this is a waste of time. Then I started using Wybron color scrollers. I forgot what they called it. It was their kind of it was a scroller that had 2 scrolls in it, and it was their competition against the Morpheus unit. But they said you need to buy the heat shield for our scrollers. And I was resistant to that, but because it was something goofy, like $20 a cut. So I got that, tried it, and I was amazed. I put in a piece of regular heat shield, stuck my, hand under the light, and all kinds of heat was on my hand. I put in the really expensive heat shield that Wybron provided at the time. Nothing.
Wow.
No heat. Cool as cool could be.
Cool.
So I became a real believer in it. And I never had a problem with the Wybron units. Color fusion, I think they call them fusion units.
Jana in Denver writes, "This is the year for graduate school."
Is it?
That's what she said. That's what Jana says. She says, "This is the year for graduate school. What's it like to be a first-year student at your school?" Jana, I'm going to be very somber here. I refuse to answer this question on the grounds that it might incriminate me.
I'll tell you what it's like to be a first-year student at Stan's school. You want to know?
Go ahead, David. Tell him.
It's sort of like, those ships back in the early days where you'd be down in the hull of the ship, and you'd be
like Amistad, like a slave ship.
Well, it's not really a slave ship, but you're kind of a slave because you're rowing across the Atlantic, right?
So it's like a Viking ship.
It's a Viking ship. So it's like being in the hull of a Viking ship. Thank you.
How the heck do I know? I haven't been a graduate student for 35 years. This is a highly speculative question.
They want to know about your school, though.
Yeah, but I'm not the student. So you're asking me, and I'm going to answer the question. Okay, I'll do a serious job. But you're asking me to put myself in the eyes and shoes of my graduate students and sort of intuit what they think it's like. So I'm going to guess. I'm going to speculate. One, they have to tolerate me a lot. That could be good. That could be not so good.
Just listen to the show.
Two, they have to come here. They arrive in August in Gainesville.
Oh, it's hot.
It's hot as a tamale here. Okay?
And the alligators are really hungry at that time.
No, the alligators. The alligators. Well, actually, the alligators are not dangerous in the summer so much because they're keeping cool. But so it's hot as heck. Okay, it starts off that way, and then there's a swamp. There's it's a college town.
Palmetto bugs.
There's bugs. So Gainesville's a friendly place. And we're a friendly school, and I think it's like a new family. And we embrace everybody, and we get to know everybody, and we build camaraderie, and you get to know your colleagues. And I think it's a little disorienting, but it's exciting, and it's like any new adventure. And I think the biggest challenge for an incoming first year is to not think that graduate school is a continuation of undergrad, to be ready for a brand new kind of experience. We treat you very differently than we treat undergrads, and you have a lot of responsibility, and it's adult time. You are basically an employee of the university, and it's a different level of expectation. So sometimes you're wearing this hat, the student hat, and sometimes you're wearing the staff hat. Sometimes you're wearing the mentor hat. So it's a big step up. And I think it's quite wonderful.
Well, my program is different. So first, take a look at the map of the United States and take a close look at Connecticut. That is the size of Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex. So we're a major city with a lot going on here. Our first-year students, we have a holistic approach into our program. So for those first-year students, throughout semester 1 and semester 2, they're studying lighting, scenery, costume, and they're picking up projection in the second semester. They're assisting, they're designing, they're studying text analysis, they're deep into Vectorworks, learning how to really use the program. And they are part of a cohort of 4 or 5 students that will move through the program over 3 years. So for us, it is that holistic approach. And in the second and third year, if you want to branch out from that, that's fine too. But for that first year, it's immersion into everything that is design. And I agree with Stan. You have to abandon the ideas of what graduate school are based upon your undergraduate experience. This is a time to reinvent yourself. And you can be a whole new person when you come to school. And during that first year, we're really asking you to decide what type of designer you want to be. You may come in as a costume designer and decide you're really a set designer. But that exploration in the first 2 semesters give you a chance to take a look at where you want to go with your career.
Or you're a set and costume designer.
Yeah, most of our students, we have 12 students right now. I think 2 of them are studying 3 areas, and the others are studying 2 areas.
Yeah, I studied all 3 areas when I was there. I don't think much has changed in those years. It is special. It's not for everybody, because not everybody wants to do that, but it is extremely rewarding, and I think both Stan and Steve has made it clear that the expectations are a lot higher. But Jenna, I am going to tell you the real answer here. If you really want to know what it's like to be a student, a first-year student at any school, very easy way of finding out. You write the recruiter and say, give me a list of present students and their emails, and write them. If the recruiter does not give you names of the present students there, they're hiding something. All right? So write the students, ask them, Facebook them. I'm sure that most people have social media accounts, either on Instagram or whatever. Get in contact with them. Say, hey, what is it like there? Because they will tell you the true story. And then if it's one of your final schools and you're actually going to go out and visit them, then, grab the students. Make sure that they give you time alone with the students. One thing that we used to do when I had a grad program is we'd have the students take the recruits out for lunch, and there was no faculty, no staff there. It was strictly time for the students to ask questions.
I want to jump on that because, David, you are so right. And that's exactly what we do. We always create student time when the visits happen. But what I've been doing this year, because now we have online portfolio review, so I've got access to every student's website in one place. So I have given every student I've talked to so far this year, I've given them a link to every current student's website, graduate and undergraduate, and a sampling of several students who have graduated in the last 3 or 4 years to their website. So, and I go see these students, see their work, and use their contact page to talk to them. That's exactly right. Complete transparency is really important. I would get nervous if you couldn't get that information.
Believe it or not, some schools will not give out that information.
That's absurd.
Now, you got to get permission to do that from the students, to give out their emails, of course.
No, not their emails. I give them the websites.
I understand, and that works too. You're right, their websites, and that's public. But I used to send out emails. So I'd ask permission first from all my students, and they always said, absolutely, yes, we'd like to talk to them. Brian in Ohio writes, I keep hearing that I should use 2 lights, a warm and a cool, to light acting areas. It seems to me that it would be better to light the acting area with 2 lights of the same neutral color. What should I do?
This is a great complex question.
Well, first of all, what should you do? You should do whatever you want to do. There are no rules. I'll tell you what I do, but this is not the way to do it. Okay, I'm just telling you a way of doing it. For front light, I come in straight in for the front because it's front fill. I usually have something at around a 45 degree and something usually at around a 30 or 25 degree if there's a position there. Sometimes use the balcony rail. Fortunately, I work in a lot of opera houses, and there are usually several balcony rails on each level of the balcony, so it doesn't have to be a real flat angle. It could be at about 25 degrees or 30 degrees. So I'll have one there, and I'll have one coming in at around 45 degrees straight in. And usually they're color changing instruments like an LED, so I can change the color. If not, I will have two lights right next to each other. One in some warmer color, one in a cooler color, basically overlapping each other, so I can mix the color temperature additively. And then I add color washes coming in from box booms or pit booms, and/or pit booms, things like that. And that's where the big strokes of light come in. But for eye light and face light, you want to get a really good skin rendering color coming in straight in from the front and something a little low to hit the eyes. Okay, that's a method. That is not coming in at 45 degree angles from the cove. You got to remember what's going to happen to that light after it hits the actor. It's going to spill onto the floor. And I would rather have one shadow going straight back. And it's not going to be a real strong shadow because it's actually probably that front fill light's going to be at like 20% or 30% or something like that, right? Then having crossing angles, because then you're going to have all this spill coming left and right, up left and up right. You're going to see shadows on the floor. It's going to be very, very distracting. So that's why I do it. What do you guys do?
Well, I do the same thing you do. So, I mean, I'm exactly the same way. But this up and out at 45, I mean, my goodness, the light is all over the place. It is everywhere. Yeah. And the minute the director says, I love what you're doing, can you isolate stage left? The answer is no, because my beam of light is going through center and exiting the upstage right wing.
The three of us are sort of synchronized in terms of the method, David, that you laid out. That's how I operate as well. It seems to work best for me too. Steve's point about unwanted shadows, your point, all makes perfect sense. But going back to the content of the question about it seems to me it would be better to light the acting area with two lights of the same neutral color. Well, I think when you're working with tungsten, we forget, and I learned this from, this came really home for me when I watched David Hersey's lighting for Cats way back in the 80s, is that there was very little filters used in that production. There was some very heavy color used for certain moods, but for basic area lighting, he didn't have much color. He really made a lot of use of just varying the intensity, because when you vary the intensity, you're also varying the color, particularly in a tungsten lamp. You're warmer when you go lower and you're cooler when you go higher. And he was sort of a master of that. Now, of course, we have LEDs. So I think, again, how much tint or shade or chroma you put on a light from different angles to create the thing you're looking for, the feeling you want, I think is a spectrum. But I think, not the point I'm making is that just brightness alone impacts color perception, not just the chroma choice.
That's a huge, huge subject, Stan, and I'm glad you brought it up, because remember, this front fill light we're talking about, whether it's coming straight in or at 45s, I doubt seriously it's ever going to reach over 40%.
That's right.
So if that's the case, whenever you're picking a color, and this is to Stan's point, you got to add one more thing into the equation besides the actual color, is how intense this light's going to be running. And you're going to say, how would I know? I don't know what the lights, I'm not in the theater yet.
Make an educated guess.
Well, yes, because a front light, unless you're doing curtain call, right? Or you're doing a big bump or something like that, it's going to be running pretty low. It's going to be running around 30, 40%, maybe 20.
That's right.
Which is so wonderful that LEDs, that you're able to change the colors so that you can have a low intensity light still with a good like 202 or 201 color in it or something like that. You can feel that, color with the LED.
Right. And so I'm glad you brought up the LED point, because even in LED, even though you're sort of making the soup differently, the recipe is different, because you're just how much of which particular LED or frequency are you playing. But as you go up in intensity, your ability to discern color increases. Right. And so brightness and color, and the really oddball thing about this, which makes it so mysterious in a way or surprising, is color vision and luminance vision are independent systems, but the brain melds them together. So I remember having a big conversation with one of our former guests, Scott Rosenfeld, about some art I was lighting. And I said, I'm thinking about going with this color temperature lamp. And he said, yeah, but is it colorful object? And I said, well, some are and some aren't. And he said, well, just remember that you might want to opt for the brighter lamp in this LED now, as opposed to the color temperature, because brighter, regardless of color temperature, will give you more color vibrancy. So brightness gives you vibrancy regardless of the chroma, regardless of the color temp.
But again, getting back to the question being that strictly this front fill light we're talking about, which this is why I'd say about 70% of my shows, my warm color is no color. Mm-hmm. I may have a frost in it, but there'll be no color. And my cool color is a Lee 200 or a Lee 201 or an R64. Again, depending. The whole reason why I have that cool in there is to mix into the warm when you start getting low. When you start pulling that intensity down, you'll have that clear light or that warm light at like 20%, and you'll have that R64 or 202 or 201 or whatever at like 30%. And that's just in there to cool down that light. That's all that's there for.
Sometimes I'll sneak into my balcony rail a diachroic, and I'll put in a primary blue. Take the edge off everything. And because you need to use a diachroic, otherwise you're getting a shift as you dim.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll do that. I was thinking about books since I'm a holistic program. The very first book on the first day of class I hand out to my students is Hello, Red Fox.
I don't know. Hello, Red Fox.
by Eric Carle. Yeah, it teaches you complementary color ideas. It's your first book.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the comedian Red Fox.
No. Hello, no. Red Fox. Why does Red Fox look green? Why does Orange Cat look blue?
I'm not familiar with that book.
I thought you were talking about
Could you put that on the website, Steve? I'm not familiar with that book.
Yeah, the one you're probably familiar with, which is his classic, is The Very Hungry Caterpillar.
Ah, there you go.
You can't.
You can't graduate without
reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar.
You are listening to Light Talk, and Light Talk is sponsored by.
From way up in the Texas Panhandle, it's Total Bastard Products. Is it your first day on the job? Are you worried you might make a few missteps and look like a fool? No problem if you use our new line of gloves. Let's start with the Riggers Handbook Work Gloves. These luxurious elbow-length work gloves are made from kid leather and printed with helpful rigging instructions directly on the gloves. Phrases like, don't drop the shackle, are your pockets empty, and span sets do wear out. Or perhaps you need the stage lighting cooling glove. This glove is perfect for when you touch a hot surface, like a hot carbon arc rod. Ooh. After you fry yourself, just slip on the cooling gloves and let the healing begin. But maybe you've been warned once too often to stay off your phone. Then you need the finger phone glove. Now you can talk into your fingers as if you were using a phone. It's like a pair of Bluetooth headphones, except it's your pinky and your thumb. Sure, folks will think you're nuts, but who cares? Now you can earn a few bucks and talk to your bookie at the same time, and the steward is none the wiser. How do you know you're getting genuine Total Bastard products? Just look for our label, the one with that caveman holding a roll of gel. Act now, and we'll throw in a pair of red and yellow McDonald's gloves. Your hands will look like a box of fries, and we'll let everyone know you're ready for lunch, damn it. Total Bastard Products. Are you man enough?
Just don't lick your fingers. That's a damn sure.
I just want to put a full disclaimer on this. The finger phone glove is a reality. It is a glove that has a headphone and a speaker built into your thumb and your pinky. I love it.
No
so
kidding.
You just walk around talking into your hand
that's pretty funny.
as you go down Rodeo.
Oh my God! Put that up on the page. I need to see that. And now back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those crazy ducks tells us that it's time again for another installment of Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about, with the expectations of jobs reopening, thank God the pandemic is going to go down. We all feel it. I got my shot today, guys. I got my shot today.
I bet you can feel it.
I feel it. It's in my veins.
Tomorrow morning, you will feel it.
My whole blood system's Moderna, baby. I've got a Moderna going on. So anyway, with the expectations of jobs reopening, now that hopefully the pandemic will be lessening, will students postpone going to graduate school?
I think it's, you could argue either side of this. I was talking to a student a couple of days ago, and this student said that they were desperate to get back into school. And it's not that they have nothing else to do. It's just that they miss the theater. They miss the camaraderie. They miss the challenge of the show. So they're anxious to get back in there and start creating things. So I think, who knows, 50-50 split here. I think some students are really wanting to get back, and other students are discovering maybe it wasn't such a bad idea to sit out a year. It also gives them a chance to think, is this something they really want to do the rest of their lives?
Well, I think if the data means anything, the surprising email from URTA this week or last week that they were adding an additional day, even though the URTA auditions are virtual, they couldn't handle it across. Usually we do 3 days. I think now it's 4 days. So there's 53 students. So that says something about, I don't know, that either students are coming back because they don't have the work, or they wanting to. I'm hearing a little bit about, I want to diversify my. Okay, let me give you an example. I'm not going to mention any names, but this particular person is a master electrician at a significant regional theater in the Northeast United States. Has his undergraduate degree, and reached out to me even before URTA and said, I want to learn all these other things about lighting that you teach, because right now I'm working construction because my theater is closed and I don't want to do that. So what other kinds of lighting can I do? And we had long conversations. So I think there's a recognition for diversification. So I think programs that are diversified, like ours and Steve's, are going to do well. I think if you've been too narrow, then you're sort of like, what is that expression? If the only tool you have is a hammer, then every job looks like a nail. So I think that's good. It comes out of this is the recognition that you need to have a diverse set of skills in the area which you love. And lighting is not just the theater, in my view. So there's that. And I'm glad we're going back. I'm glad we're going to open up. I want to go see a concert. I mean, that's good. But I do think that it has caused, it would have been a time for a lot of reflection, which we haven't been able to do because let's just face it, we're all workaholics. Some of us. I'm sort of a recovered workaholic, but when you're working all the time, you don't have time to reflect. And I think if COVID gave us anything, it gave us that. And I think through that reflection, we come to a new understanding.
It's very interesting. I've been talking to a lot of students lately, mostly undergrads actually now, and people who were my undergraduate students who've taken some time off. And, there's another issue that's going on. And we talked about it last week with Thad. And that is the lack of health care. And maybe students are realizing what they maybe want to do is get into a university job, that they want to get an MFA so they could start teaching, so that they could actually have insurance that would take care of them. Because as we all know, a lot of people, even professional designers right now, are hurting because their insurances run out. And if they had jobs as teachers in most universities, they'd be covered by health insurance. So I think there's also a survival thing going on, that people are actually looking at it in a more practical way. Yes, it's great to get the knowledge. It's great to get the connections. I want to be a professional designer. But hey, what if a teaching job came along? If I don't have an MFA, I'm not going to be able to take it.
It puts another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing, jobs have been scarce, clearly, this last year. But I think some people might be realizing the job they're having to take is not the job they want. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a programmer. There's nothing wrong with being a stagehand. But maybe they really want to be a designer. And so, the career path they're on right now, which is putting food on the plate, is not ultimately advancing the end game, which is to design opera or design dance or work with an architectural firm. So I think they're realizing too that they need more skill sets. So school is a very good option.
Yeah, that's my point. I agree with Steve. And I think we are also shifting the program a little bit, at least at the undergraduate level, to embrace the technology. Our undergraduate program has been focused very much on design only. And I think that's hurt us, actually, and it's hurt our students. They need to be able to. And a lot of our undergrads are working in technical positions. You know, I just found out that I have a former BFA who's the master electrician at the Public in New York. And it's like, wow, cool, you know, that you're doing that. So I think we have to sort of broaden. I think narrowing is not so good right now. Broadening is better. And that includes embracing people who are just fantastic technologists as well.
So do you guys think that we're actually going to get an increase in graduate students next year?
I haven't looked at the real numbers on URTA yet. I don't think the set design numbers are up. I think the set design numbers are hovering. Last time I looked, I thought it was hovering around 20 people.
Wow, that's low.
Costumes are up, according to my
costumes are
colleague.
always up. I mean, there's tons. They used to have 3 days of costumes. I remember that.
Yeah.
But certainly lighting is up. It feels like lighting for the last few years has been about 30, 35 students.
Right.
So it's, you know, not quite doubled, but it is a significant increase.
So there were like a total of around 50 students, and there are like 50 schools all wanting these 50 students. And we all know that only a percentage of those people are really ready for grad school. So what does that say? That a lot of these schools are just not going to get any students?
Well, I also think the numbers are up for another reason. I think URTA and Ellen and Brackley have been working very hard to get an URTA satellite recruitment happening at LDI in Las Vegas. And that's been going on for 2 or 3 years now. So usually at that satellite audition, 10 to 15 students in lighting show up. So we could just see the migration of those students who would normally come to Las Vegas move into the
Oh, that's a possibility. Yeah.
you know, what is called the Chicago auditions. But still, you're right. It is there's barely enough students to go around to the schools one-to-one. And you're right, half of those students at this point probably should not be pursuing graduate schools. They should be pursuing working in the industry for a couple of years and kind of getting their head on straight and seeing if this is what they want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest mistake that students make because they don't know what to do next. They just go right into graduate school. I mean, that's fine for some students, but I've told a lot of students who are debating, I say, take a year off. If you're debating, take a year off. In just about every case, and I've been doing it for a long time, just like you guys, every case where a student has taken some years off, they've excelled. When they go to grad school. I cannot say the same for people who go straight in.
Well, but the circumstances right now are people may be seeking the shelter of graduate school because of the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, the reality is I talk to students every year, and there are no villains here. They're looking at graduate school as a job. So the bottom line is, how much money can you give me to go to your school?
That's been going on forever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and some of those, I mean, nobody wants to graduate from college with debt. And some of them are probably carrying debt from undergraduate education. So now they're off to grad school. And, you know, grad school is 3 short years. And if you look at that as a job, and I'm not knocking, you know, there's a few schools in really high atmosphere that can offer in that $20,000 to $30,000 a year range for assistantships. You know, I don't know if that's how you pick a school, frankly. And more schools, mine included, are trying to find ways to provide health care to the students because that, you know, some of them who are older are now off their parents' health plan.
Right. And they have families, some of them.
Some have families. So there's all kinds of things that are going into the mix here. Can I get a good education? Am I going to go bankrupt while I'm in school? What's going to happen with my health care? Are there opportunities to work in the community? Can I get away from school to do a show? Or am I on assistantship and I'm locked into working in the box office every afternoon? So there is a lot of pressure on these students. And, you know, we all think, when I say we, collectively URTA, we all think we're making good offers. And we all think we have something to offer, and I think we do. But boy, I mean, it really comes down to nickels and dimes sometimes on what school you go to.
You know, one thing I feel good about here, even though we're a state school and we're the flagship, but the graduate students here are unionized. in a non-union, in a right-to-work state like Texas, but Florida is not a right-to-work. It's a right-to-work state, so it's not heavily unionized. But we do have a union, and they negotiated healthcare. So every graduate student here, and it's included in their package. It doesn't come out of their check. It is a fringe benefit.
Well, Steve has the last question of the day.
Yeah, Russell writes, can I power a mirror ball with a stage pin, or must I use an Edison connector? Well, Russ, you power it with electricity, buddy. I mean, you could tape those wires together.
Right.
It doesn't
Stick 'em
matter.
in the socket.
It doesn't matter if you're using a stage pin or an Edison. Maybe your question is more subtle, and maybe your question is, can I run my mirror ball motor through a dimmer? I would say no. you know, if you're trying to figure out how to make your mirror ball motor variable speed, look at the motor, but you might be able to run it through a model train transformer. So there are ways to do this on the cheap. But as far as the connector, it doesn't matter what the connector is really, if it's rated for the amperage you're putting through it. So stage pin, Edison makes no difference.
It could be a twist lock even. It could be a stage pocket connector. It could be
a paddle plug.
Do they still make train transformers, model trains?
Sure.
Oh,
really?
yeah.
That's my retirement right there.
Like the one my dad had in the basement with the giant two handles on each side.
Lionel, they still exist.
Oh man!
One of my first tours went out, and we had a bunch of gobo rotators in the air, and we'd spent every penny we had spent, and we realized we didn't have any money to actually purchase the controller for the gobo rotators. So we got we actually got Lionel train transformers and just rode the little joystick there and spun them up and spun them down. They had their own little suitcase they traveled in, little anvil case.
That's cool.
It was the cutest thing ever.
So we're going a little long today, guys, because for the past 2 weeks we've had interviews and we had a lot to talk about today. So it was kind of fun. It's good to talk to you guys again.
Yeah. What was your name again?
Well, the rockin' sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
I'm thinking, are we on Parler? No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate us on Parler or any other platform, the law firm of Flecht, Flare, and Glare, and their recently promoted paralegal Snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and from deep in the heart of Texas.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk more about the happenings in our crazy industry.
All of that and a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Welcome to the new era.
Yes, thank God.
Toodles.
Light Talk.